Hey, so welcome to my astrology session. I wanted to thank you to book this session with me, dive into your natal chart and your solar revolution. The aim of this video is just to give you a quick introduction to astrology so we can dive into your chart as we have our talk. So here are a few things I want to show you regarding a theme. So this is a typical chart, the way it looks like when we go through it. As you can see, it's a representation, a symbolic representation of your birth planets, how they were disposed in the sky at your birth time of your birth. So let's take this example. There are two different categories of planets. There are the personal planets, which are the faster ones, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. Those are the slower ones, the faster ones, sorry, and Mars, of course, not to forget. Saturn is also part of the personal planets. So these we call the personal planets. And then you have the other part of planets which are much slower, which are generational. And that is Neptune, Uranus, Pluto. Basically, that's it. Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto are generational, and also Chiron, which is an asteroid, which is quite generational. It moves quite slowly. Okay. So in astrology, we have the typical astrology, like the European one I use, is divided into 12 houses, as you can see here. And these houses tell a story. They tell the story of human development. So house 1 is the house of Aries. It's ruled by Mars, and it tells the story of the sperm, this fight and urge of the sperm to win the race. So that's house 1. This is who I am and how I show myself to the outer world. Everything that comes with me, everything that is supernatural with my life. House 2 is when the sperm reaches his goal, and it's the nidification. House 2 is house of Taurus. It's the house of your wealth, of your material goods, of your real estate, everything that is super material linked to 3D world. House 3 is the house of the Gemini. It's the house of communication, of relationships, of the peer group, also brothers, sisters, and friends. And it's ruled by Mercury. House 4 is the house of the clan. It's the house of the Cancer. It's ruled by Moon, and it has to do with everything that is linked to our heritage, our family, our home, also the place we call home. House 5 is ruled by Leo. It is the house of Leo, ruled by the sun. It's the house of creation, recreation, and co-creation. So it's a very fun house. That's where we have tier of artists and everything that has to do with children also, and recreation, basically. House 6 is the house of Virgo. It's the house of everyday chores, everyday life, the house of repetition, of taking care of domestic. It's ruled by Mercury also. House 7 is the house, don't pay attention to these signs. This is a particular chart. I'm just giving you the definition of the houses here. So don't look at this to the chart of somebody. So house 7 is the house of Libra, house of relationships, of the alter ego, of love, also of couple life, of partnerships, association. It's ruled by Venus. House 8 is the house of the Scorpio, is the house of the underworld, house of the taboo, house of transformation, house of death and passion and sex and nightlife also. It's ruled by Pluto, who is the master of Scorpio. House 9 is the house of the Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a sign of studies, higher studies, but also foreign lands, foreign countries, travels and stuff like that. The far away, we say. It's also the house of spirituality somehow. It's ruled by Jupiter, the planet, the god of expansion. House 10 is the house of the Capricorn. It's ruled by Saturn, the god of time, Kronos. It's the house of, it's also midheaven. It's the house of your accomplishments, of your professional life. House 11 is the house of the Aquarius. It's the house of companionship. It's the house of friendships. It's the house of social work, of collective endeavors, of the new world also, basically, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and it is totally turned to the future. House 12 is the house of the Pisces. It's ruled by the god Neptune, which is the god of the troubled waters between the two worlds, life and death. And so it's a very mystical house. It's the house of karma also. Voila, so that's the way we read a chart, okay? So you have houses, and in your houses, which are the decorum, as we say, the scene of the action, you have different planets, okay? And these planets are the roles that you will take. And here the signs are the way they will be dressed, are the acting, the actors. So here, this person, for example, has a moon, which is linked to emotional world, your inner child in Taurus, in house 5. So her inner child will express herself in the decorum of creation, recreation, and co-creation, a very playful urge, need, because moon is your needs, your urges in house 5. And it will be expressed in the Taurian way. Taurus is very pragmatic, it's also very playful. It is super linked to nature as the animal. It is very consistent, quite slow also, and it loves everything that goes through the mouth. So it's food, it's also alcohol, cigarettes, it's quite excessive in the pleasures, it's very sensual. Taurus is ruled by Venus. So this is how we read it. Your planet is one of the characteristics of your personality. So the moon will be your inner child. The sun will be the way you shine, your basic vibration, your core frequency, let's say. This person has a core frequency in Cancer, which is also ruled by moon. So this must be a very lunar kind of a person, very emotional, very watery, because Cancer is water and there's a lot of planets in here. So there's a lot of dimension of intuition, feelings, emotions in this person. Venus is also in Cancer and Mercury. Venus tells us about the way we live the feminine inside, the way we are as a woman, the kind of woman we are. And if it's a man, it's the kind of women we love. It's the feminine frequency of fragrance within us. And so it can be also the kind of women we like if it's a man. And if it's a woman, it's the kind of women we are. So it will be a very sensitive woman, very caring. Cancer is a very much taking care of others, very loving, very protective. Extreme, it can be overprotective. So these are the claws of the Cancerian. But they're also very timid in the sense of their own. They're so emotional that they're very protective of their own, very guarded in what their own emotions are concerned. This is a conjunction. When two planets are together, we call it a conjunction. So they mutually help each other. So this is a person who has a lot of friends or a very strong relationship with a sibling, brother or sister. It's also the planet Mercury, planet of communication. communication, or the way your mind is operated. So operating the mind in the way of a Cancerian would be a way of looking at things. The grid of analyzing society or daily life will be through the oculus, the viewpoint of a mother, very caring. And the way you look at things is, how can I help? How can I care more? How can I protect? It's very much about protecting. Remember the clause. So that's the Cancerian way of thinking. If Mercury had been here in Leo, it would have been looking at the world through the lens of a Leo, of a lion. So how can I shine more? How can I progress this way of doing things? How can I improve? How can I empower? And how can I have more creativity and joy in this way of doing? So that's the way of thinking of the Leo. Conjunctions reinforce each other, that's what I told you. Then you have different ways of planetary alignments. You have oppositions, as you see here. There's a strong opposition between Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's the way we grow. It's our GPS for abundance, the way we explore life and make it a more important, fruitful experience. So this person has an opposition. So every time this person goes for personal expansion, there will be kind of an opposition with the way we communicate, our friends, our siblings, and the love, the feminine kind. So the challenge when you have an opposition in your chart is to find the balance, to find the middle way between being the woman I want to be, contenting and continuing to have a smooth relationship with my siblings and my friends, and yet finding the appropriate way to expand and to glorify my life on earth, to be truthful to myself and continue my quest of growth, the grail, you know? So this is the way we live oppositions. It's a very challenging position. And the final goal for a position is to find the middle point. Now, there are other aspects in planetary positions. You have trines, which are 60 degrees between two planets, and those will be more helping. Trines are planets which help each other and constantly feed each other's work in the birth chart of the person. And then you have the squares, 90-degree situations, where you see here, for example, there's a square between these two, these planets. And so the square is, no, sorry, this is a trine because it has 60 degrees, and the square would be 90 degrees. So they're pushing against each other and they're giving a tough time to each other, actually. So it's constantly grinding something and it's constantly bugging you. And it can be really tiring as an aspect. So it's very important to know when you have a square, because then you can, you know, take a step back and look at it from another perspective and give yourself a break on those issues. So voila, basically that's for the personal planets. Now the slower planets, the generational planets, as I told you, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, they talk about some real deep stuff in your lives. Uranus tells us about the capacity we have to reinvent ourselves, to progress and look towards the future, to be innovative in regards of certain aspects in our lives. This is our capacity. Pluto is our capacity of transformation. It's the way we will transform ourselves and reach a next step, a next level in our incarnation. Neptune will tell us about our capacity to tackle spirituality, the way we step into our spiritual life, the way we connect to divine, the way we feed our connection to the divine. So when the planet is retrograde, it is quite a challenging position It tells us that the person will be very much connected with her own perception of that planet. So there will be kind of a veil. Person will have a difficult time understanding the general perspective of the collective and will be very much biased by its position because it's the karmic position, a retrograde planet. It's karmic, and it really shows us a place where we have to work on ourselves and make important steps towards understanding the collective and understanding our karmic challenge here. So yeah, this is a very challenging position. I want to read something about retrograde planet here. It says that when a planet is retrograde, you need to accept your natural marginality. People who have retrograde planets, they don't pretend to be different from the clan. They just are different. They really feel different. And so it's very tough for them to try to adjust to the collective. They really have this kind of biased way of handling daily life. So it's important for them to acknowledge that and just to be very conscious about that. So what they say here is that retrograde planets are inconscient of the context and the real needs of their peers. They really work and act in liaison with their bias. They're very subjective. So this is a real opportunity when you have a retrograde planet to reactivate karmic memories and to get rid of them. Yeah, it's a super heavy position, but you know, we have the chart that we can handle, so it is what it is. It's just important to acknowledge, to know it, and then to take according steps. So another information which is important to know, global one, it's Saturn, which are the challenges in our lives. This is Saturn. Saturn tells us about where we have to get the lesson, take the lesson, understand the lesson, bow our heads towards something that's bigger than us. It's typically administration, police, you know, all these things that we don't want to, you know, we don't want to go to, but we have to go through that. This is the incarnation, path of incarnation. So Saturn's our challenges, and that help crystallize a rough diamond into a radiant light. When we work with Saturn, instead of going against it, we polish the stone, the crystal, the gem we are, and we make it a shining diamond. Now, Pluto indicates our karmic key. Pluto here, I told you this is the Lord of transformation. And Neptune, I told you before what it is. So what we can say more about this is that the first 6 houses here, so from 1 to 6, are about the development of the personal identity. So when you have a lot of planets in the lower circle of your chart, it means you're really very much here in this world to work on your development of personal identity, your worth, your strength, your skills. The first 3 houses deal with unconscious development. So from house 1 to house 3. And initiate building skills for making our unconscious conscious. The first 6 houses incorporate development aspects of our human journey that prepare us to interact in the world in phases 7 and 12. So everything that's above the median line is interacting with the outer world, and this is really working on our inner world. See? And if you go the left side, is also very much working on our karmic aspects. So houses 7 to 12. Tested and grow in our relation to the external world. That's said already. Each of the 12 houses represent an arena and phase of our human journey. The respective zodiac sign they're associated with engage in specific challenges and help us seek answers, find resolutions, and become more empowered. These basic themes play out in everyone's life. The following discussion explains. Okay, so this we talked about before already. Yeah, so basically that's what I wanted to tell you. This is very much the professional life. This is the personal life. This is the inner world. So the left side of the zodiac is very much working on our inner world, and the right side is contributing to the collective. So this person has a very big equilibrium between left and right. We could call it the personal and the internal and the external world. And this is the professional, the upper side, and the personal world. So voila, this is the small introduction I wanted to give you because, yeah, it's important to understand Zodiac. So as I told you, it's the karmic wheel of life. So starting with Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and then we're going towards the collective. We have the Libra is the other one, Scorpio, then Sagittarius, Capricorn, Jupiter, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. It is the whole, Aquarius is really very much understanding that we are all same, we are all equal. Aquarians are very much about equality. This is the era of Aquarius. So we're really landing into a new society where the crumbling of the top down, of the elite, of privilege, everything is more communitarian. That's the Aquarian vibe. And then we come to the Pisces. Pisces is very much about the divine, about tapping into this consciousness, the Christ consciousness that we are all one, actually. So it's even above the collective community thing. It's really this diving into the divine and being in the realms of the spiritual. So Pisceans have a tough time to be here in the 3D world, even though there are some very, very good businessmen, which are Pisceans, because they're very diplomatic, they understand things, they're very intuitive. This is water, right? So every water sign in the zodiac has a lot of intuition. And the earth signs are very pragmatic, and air signs are very spontaneous and more flexible. So these are the three qualities we have in the zodiac also. And they kind of jump very regularly. So you have fire, which is more the spontaneous, action-oriented. So Sagittarius is fire, Capri is earth, Aquarius is air, Pisces is water, and then you start again, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, and water. So this is the real, we call it the elemental repartition of the zodiac, which is super interesting too. Dean Rudier wrote a whole book on that, on the elements in the zodiac and how you can really have a reading only looking at that aspect of your chart. Okay, hope it's not too confusing. This was just to give you a little insight before we start, and looking forward to our session. And if you have any question, don't hesitate, send me an email and I'll get back to you. Bye for now.